What's going on, everybody? Stocks by the numbers, welcome back. My apologies, I've been silent for the last couple of days. I'm just feeling under the weather, just been laying down. It's been hard for me to sit at the PC, but I did want to do a quick update here on Palantir because I did see that they recently got awarded another new contract from the Department of Defense. So I just wanted to take a quick look together real quick. Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR, listed here on the New York Stock Exchange. Stock right now 2170, down a couple of cents here, about 0.2%, less than that now. But markets randomly started raging here going into the close. Dow up over 550 points here. Just moments ago, it was up about 300. So we have a lot of buying coming in here going into the close, but Palantir got awarded 153 million initially with this order, with potential for about 480 million over the next 5 years. And we knew that things like this were going to continue to happen, right? Palantir obviously brings something of value to the table, consistently getting tapped and getting these orders and these contracts from the United States government. So that's why I said long term, in my opinion, probably going to turn out to be a phenomenal winner, and it already is for a lot of you. Of course, in the numbers, we do have to call it like we see it, and I still say that the stock is tremendously overvalued, and that's probably why, in my eyes, you didn't really get much action, right? So this happened yesterday, and you can see the stock popped up, hit, what did we hit? 21.95, and then we kind of started to channel down here. Friday today, we had a spike up here to 22.20 and then immediately rejected and kind of came down. So we could potentially make the argument that, hey, we had the big spike up and now we're kind of like channeling down. So we could potentially be getting ready to pop up and take our next leg higher, which definitely is possible. I'm looking for here, in my opinion, maybe about this 23.5 mark, and then potentially to the bottom of that gap up of $24 a share. Chances are that's where they're probably going to take the stock, even though, in my opinion, we should start pulling back to 1817. So we know technically anything can happen, but of course, this technically is a pretty positive catalyst. So we might see a breakout, and you guys might be able to see some growth here over the next week or two. But Palantir, again, the one thing that concerns me is if these markets really start pulling back, which randomly everything just went green and the Dow's up 600 points. But market cap 48.29 billion, PE 171.5. Last year's revenue 2.25 billion. Right? So this is what I always speak about. And I'm sure you guys who've been with me for a while know that I'm not bashing the company. I'm just trying to be a realist here. When a company like this, trading 24 times annual revenue, let me tell you something. If an actual sell-off begins, this stock will go back to $10, $12. I'm telling you that right now. Because it got pumped way too much, way too quick. But again, on the technical side, on the recent news side, probably has a pretty good chance to pop up. And like I said, in my opinion, I would look for maybe about 23.5 and potentially $24 off of this news. I did want to point out just a couple of trend lines here for you guys. So we had this gap up here going into earnings back, it's about 3 weeks ago. And if we draw our trend line here from the top of this high, March 7th, 24, coming down to that high right there on May 3rd, 24, and you can see that just in the last couple of days, that is basically exactly where the stock stopped and then began to reject a little bit and kind of stay in this little channel. We did have the flash pop here on Friday, and then we immediately dropped back down and closed below this trend line to stay in this range. So this is why this is going to be Monday, it's Monday, Tuesday. Could take till Tuesday or Wednesday even. You can see, bottom of the screen, see that's Wednesday, kind of midday, June 5th. That's the apex point right there. And obviously it doesn't always reach the end of the point before a break up or break down, but could potentially happen Monday, Tuesday, and we could see a break up or a breakdown. But chances are, again, off of the positive catalyst, and because I know, of course, it's a very popular stock that a lot of people are just consistently adding to and building a position in, chances are it probably more than likely will go up. But this recent gap up here, this was 2 quarters ago in the February quarter. And you can see I drew out a trend line there from the bottom of that candle, Feb 6, 2024, connecting to the bottom there of April 19th, 24, And see, it ended right there, and I extended it out. That was the last time I looked at the stock. And you can see that recently on these pullbacks, that's exactly where the stock came to, and then had a nice bounce back up. Came back down again and bounced up. Came down again and then bounced up. So this right here, this trend line right here is your key level to watch. So if we potentially reach this apex here Monday, Tuesday, and the stock decides to go lower instead of higher, in my eyes, this is the level you have to watch, which looks like about maybe 2080. So that right there, this is the support level that the stock has been above since the first week of February. And if we potentially break that, then we can see maybe this trend line here of about 1880. And that trend line goes from, I went from back here because I may have mentioned this in the Discord. I don't know if I mentioned it in a video, but you can see it looked almost like a perfect descending triangle was setting up. And then we happened to break higher instead of lower. So I went from the low of that candle right there, which is September 21st, 23, and connected it up to there. January 31st, 30th maybe, February 1st. Yeah, it's looking like January 31st, 24, and I just connected those bottoms and drew that out, and we can see again that we're looking at, yeah, maybe like 1880 or something. Worst case scenario, it could pull back to this trend line. Excuse me. It could pull back to this trend line here, maybe about 16 and change, but I really don't know if that's going to happen unless the markets really go into sell-off mode, and that's going from the lows here, the end of December 22, connecting there to about May 3rd, 2023, and then I just extended that trend line out. So again, that was the line that the stock was bouncing off of before it initially had that breakout on the news of this quarter, where the company announced that they went net income positive, right? That was the big catalyst that really catapulted this stock up and out, again, of this long-term descending wedge that we were in. So if we extend that support trend line out, we can potentially say that, you know, the low of the lows, if markets sell off a little bit and this stock corrects, we could potentially be looking at about 16 and change, maybe, you know, like 1680, 17, right? But if we immediately break down, again, I'm looking for about 2080 on this support level, and then we potentially hit up this level at about, yeah, like 1880, 1884 or something. And it's interesting because it actually meets up with one of the moving averages as well. And again, I know people are going to say, oh, you're always bashing Palantir. No, you know, I have to call it like I see it. I have to call it like I see it. If every stock we looked at that was doing, you know, $1-2 billion a year in revenue was worth, you know, 50 billion, a lot of you would probably have, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars now, right? So this is what I mean. Just because it's in the specific sector and a lot of people like it and trade it and try to buy it on the dips, doesn't mean that it has to just keep going up and up. Again, you know, a lot of you follow me and like to hear my opinions because I'm a realist. Not just because I pull up a stock you like Palantir, and say, holy crap, did you see what happened? Stock's going to 40. Like, you know, we have to be realistic. But I will say this, if we do connect the tops here, March 7th, to that pop-up there, May 6th, we can see that we're looking potentially at about 24 and a third. So we do have a big rally potentially incoming for Palantir. And I have a feeling that the markets, see, realistically, we really should pull back. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear it because as long as everything's on the up and up, then everything you own is on the up and up and you're making money essentially every day. So I understand the last thing you want to hear is that markets are going to correct and everything's going to go down and you may actually start seeing red in your account instead of green. I can appreciate that. But again, it has been bouncing off of this support trend line. It did just get that good news, so that's why it might potentially flatten out for a day or two, but it does have a pretty good shot to, you know, break up and out as opposed to break down and go to 24. Yeah, but 48 billion, I mean, again, they're trading, 23 times annual revenue, 170 PE. So that's why this stock, that's why I wanted to show just a couple of points as well. If this company does decide to break down as opposed to break up, you have to watch this level here first, in my opinion, and then the next level could be about 1880, which coincidentally, um, oh, wait, we have moving average 22.19, hit a high today of 22.20, so we technically rejected off of that 50-day. Pivot point here, 22.13, which it technically rejected off of and closed below it. And next stop could be 2017 and maybe even the 200-day moving average, 19 and a third. But if we switch over weekly, we can see, look at this 50-day moving average on the weekly, all the way down here at like 8 and a quarter, now up to 1882, which is right at, no, it's right at this trend line here. If we break down, you can see, look, this is like 1890, 86. So that's why I'm saying we could potentially break down first before we pop up. And again, a stock like this, I understand you guys like it, but the fundamentals, you cannot deny that it could be viewed as overvalued. And this is just, again, just the warning sign that I always mention when we're talking about companies like this. Because if markets, again, if markets decide to really start pulling back and we sell off for a month, let's just say, this stock can easily pull back to like 12 or potentially 10. And it would be justified. I mean, if we cut these numbers in half, we're still looking, right? We bring this down to 10, let's say, or 11, whatever. You're still talking about a $24 billion company who made $2 billion last year. So you'd still be trading 12 times annual revenue at that point with a PE of about 85. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if markets do begin to sell off, you can't be surprised. You cannot be surprised. But again, technically, coming off good news, we could potentially pop up to the 23s and the 24s. But, I always like to point out some other potential situations where we could go. 1882, in my opinion, that pullback to that trend line and that moving average would technically be healthy. But again, I know people are staying pumped on it, so everyone just continues to buy it. RSI on the weekly, basically middle of the road here, 52.5. MACD's been slowly pulling back. Stock just kind of channeling downward here for the last couple of months. Switching over to the daily, RSI, same thing, middle of the road here at about 50. We had the rejection off that pivot point and the moving average. And next stop could be maybe about 20. But the MACD recently crossed to the upside as well. So that's why it could be, that's why I'm saying we could maybe take a day or two and then have the pop up to 23, 24. But this is why, again, I always say that sometimes you're better off potentially just waiting, just sitting and waiting and trying to wait for a better entry price. Because off of that news yesterday, I'm sure a lot of you probably thought, you saw those numbers and you said, holy crap, this company is phenomenal. They keep getting, hundreds of millions of dollars from these governments. Stock's going to go up, 10%, 14% on that news. And what happened? Stock went up 3%, then started to pull back, and today it's flat. So this is why I say, I used to tell you guys this all the time. When you have stocks that really run up and overextend themselves, you may run into a situation for a couple of months or even a year or two where, because it's so high, even if they beat earnings, it's not a big deal and the stock could stay flat or potentially drop down. Now you had the contract come in with the DOD, and again, stock went up 3% and then just kind of gave it back, and today it's flat, right? So you didn't see much movement, even though they technically, have the potential for, 600 plus million over the next 5 years, right? So if this was any other stock, it would have exploded. The problem, in my eyes, why Palantir didn't move that much is because it already exploded. You understand what I'm saying? So this is why, again, we have to try to be realistic at some points. And you know, as much as I like this company, I mean, they definitely bring a lot of value to the table. Again, they're constantly being tapped and awarded these contracts from the government. And again, the commercial side as well has been generating decent revenue for them. And I know that was the main concern of analysts. So that's why once those numbers were reported in line or better than expectations as well, that's what helped pump the stock up here into the 20s. And now, again, has been slightly pulling back. But long term, in my opinion, probably going to grow nicely and turn out to be a pretty decent winner. But a company like this, again, after running up so much, looking at the actual revenue that they're bringing in, this is a situation where, this could remain flat until like the end of the year, and then we're going to have the January effect where all of these funds reposition and a lot of volume probably going to come into something like a Palantir, and that could run it up maybe to 30 plus after the ball drops. But again, this is why I speak about the fundamentals, and this is why sometimes you do have to look at the numbers, because as much as we like a company, we can't just go up and up and up just because we like it. But again, technically, we're up above this trend line. Technically, we've had multiple bounces off of this support trend line, and you did just get some good news. So probably Monday, Tuesday, unless markets really crap out, you're probably going to see a break up. But again, if if something like this drops to excuse me, if something like this drops to like the high 18s, I really wouldn't be concerned, but also at the same time I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, I guess I'll end it there. But once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand markets are rocky and volatile and very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for stopping by. You guys have a great weekend, all right?